Depending upon the choices that we make, our destiny will be decided. In a society, if predominantly people are becoming more criminal, there's a dire need of Sattva Guṇa to rise in society. If people are more helping each other, then you should understand their Sattva Guṇa is increased. See, people say it's my decision. Actually, it is not their decision. It's the decision of the Guṇa that predominates.
That is driving the decision. But the tamogun guy, what is the immediate prescription for him to get out of that entanglement?
So, with the right lifestyle choices, a person theoretically can rise to Rajogun. Early morning hours are considered to be Sattvic. Middle part of the day is Rajasic. Night is Tamasic. If you are more active during the Sattvic part of the day, your Sattva Guṇa will increase. Especially if you engage in spiritual activities during the Sattvic hours. If you are more active during the Rajasic time, then your Rajogun will increase. If you are more active during nightlife, Mumbai nightlife, the Tamo Guṇa will increase. People want peace, want relief from misery and suffering, and for that they take up some meditational practices, they turn to spirituality, etc. But then because they don't understand the science, they do meditation in the morning and at night they do all night party. So it's counterproductive. If you want to increase peace of mind, be more awake during Sattvic hours, eat more Sattva Guni food, hear Sattvic music, classical Indian kirtans, bhajans, increases the Sattva Guna. Bollywood songs increases the Rajoguna, and then rock increases the Tamoguna. So once we understand the science, we can make the right lifestyle choices to increase the Sattva in us.
So last time we started with the chapter and we got on to Krishna basically defining the three gunas deeply, and then we go further on to explaining further the three gunas now.
So Krishna, he explains about how the three gunas are competing with each other. And they are in competition, and depending upon our choices, we can support any one of them.
And you decide whether you want to go up the ladder or you don't want to do anything and fall below. Lower.
That's the whole point. So we have choice to upgrade ourselves, our consciousness to Sattva Guna by the choices that we make. And depending upon the choices that we make, our destiny will be decided. So Krishna says in the next verse, the manifestation of Sattva Guna can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. See, it's very scientific. As I said, depending upon the choices that we make, we can either support these three gunas are competing with Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Whom you support, they will win.
Correct.
And when they win, how do you know they are winning? Krishna is explaining here. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. You become more receptive to knowledge. आपको चमकने लग जाएगा, गीता, भागवत सब चमकने लग जाएगा. See, people say, I can't study it, couldn't understand anything. Why? Because, as I said, it's not IQ that determines. It's not your knowledge of the language that determines. It's your level of consciousness that determines how much you are able to actually grasp.
Absorb, yeah.
So, Sattva Guna is characterized by growth of knowledge. Chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, Rajogun, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering. Right? So, you can gauge for yourself what is happening with you. Whether Sattva Guna is increasing, Rajoguna is increasing, or Tamo Guna is increasing. You can see it yourself. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness and illusion are manifested. See, this individually and collectively also. In a society, if predominantly people are becoming more criminal, there's a dire need of Sattva Guna to rise in society. If people are more helping each other, then you should understand their Sattva Guna is increasing. Right? It's collectively and individually and collectively. At both levels, these principles apply. then through the choices that we make throughout our life, at the time of death, either tamoguna will be predominant, rajoguna will be predominant, or sattoguna will be predominant. A person could be born in predominantly sattoguni nature, but through wrong lifestyle choice, by the time he meets death, he could be predominantly tamasic.
Correct.
Or vice versa. Depending upon what you are at the time of death, that will determine your destination. When one dies in the mode of goodness, when one dies in sattoguna, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Even if you die in sattoguna, you don't get liberation. Same point that we made in the previous class.
Correct. You need to be in Shuddha Sattva.
Shuddha Sattva, beyond sattoguna also. The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Correct? Karmanaha sukratasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam. The result of sattoguna is nirmalam, pure. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. So ultimately Rajoguna leads to misery. Why Rajoguna leads to misery, you tell me?
Because same, it is up and down. The moment I am happy or materially benefiting, I have sown the seed for misery.
Yes,
that's why.
Absolutely, you have become very knowledgeable in the Gita.
Some amount of it.
See, when you
kindergarten stuff.
When you experience material pleasure, you are sowing the seeds of distress simultaneously. Correct. A Rajoguni person is obsessed with experiencing material happiness, material pleasure. And eventually it is going to lead to misery only. So,
there is one other thing. You see, what you are saying really is at normally any point of time, I know whether I am doing more Rajagun or more Tamagun. Generally.
Yes, generally also.
I will know.
You would know.
If I am in Rajagun, there probably is a tendency to say, hey, I will take care of this later on. Let me enjoy the benefit just now. I will take care of my Sattvagun at a later point of time.
See, the point here is that tendency to procrastinate is tamasic, number one. A person who is sattvic is, rather than reactive, is proactive.
I see.
See, the lack of Sattva-guna makes us speak like that in the first place.
I see.
It is not that people say that and push developing Sattva-guna. Because they lack Sattva-guna, they have a tendency to do that. So the solution to the whole problem is, right now you start developing Sattva-guna, and when you start developing Sattva-guna, you stop procrastinating Sattva-guna for the future. Because your tamasic tendency will reduce.
Really. Got it.
Correct. So, yes, Krishna says, action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Ajnanam tamasa. A person who is in tamoguna, he is not even experiencing material happiness. He is lost.
Correct.
So the person is lost. And then Krishna says, from the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance develops foolishness, madness, and illusion. He summarizes again. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. And those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Okay. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he who knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. See, the way to liberation is to gain knowledge of these modes and understand very clearly how our decisions in life are governed by the gunas. See, people say, it's my decision. Actually, it is not their decision. It's the decision of the guna that predominates them.
That is driving the decision.
That is driving the decision, actually. So, the moment we take hold of the scriptural knowledge, we expose ourselves to the scriptures, and our decisions is based on scriptural knowledge. From that very moment, we are taking decisions independent of the dictation of the three gunas.
Hmm.
If we are not taking shelter of the scriptures, which are transcendental to the three gunas, ultimately our decisions will be within the three gunas only.
Hmm. Because it is not based on knowledge.
It's not based on knowledge.
Knowledge, right.
Knowledge that's coming from a transcendental source.
Hmm.
Because the scriptures are coming from even knowledge comes within the three gunas, by the way.
I see.
The kind of knowledge. So if you are more rajasic, you tend to look for knowledge in rajasic sources.
I see.
If you are tamasic, you tend to look for knowledge in tamasic sources.
Hmm.
And then you remain in tamoguna, you remain in rajoguna. You will keep rotating within the gunas only unless you seek for knowledge from a source that is beyond the purview of the three gunas.
Hmm.
That is why, in order to escape the entanglement of the three gunas, it's very important to hold on to Shastric knowledge. Gita's knowledge should be read every single day.
Hmm.
You're reading the Bhagavatam now?
Yeah. Yeah, still not more than half an hour. But just back on that question, really, again. So if I'm in Rajogun and I want to improve my knowledge and take me slightly up the ladder, let's take that as one situation. And I'm in Tamogun and I want to take myself up one step, really. What is the prescription? Simple prescription. So the Rajogun one I can understand, you do one of the three idle, chanting. So, but the Tamogun guy, what is the immediate prescription for him to get out of that entanglement, really? That's the bigger one, really.
See, if you think in terms of upgrading yourselves from Tamogun to Rajogun, you are lost. It's like if your goal of life is to climb the tree, you will remain on the ground.
I see.
If you aim for the sky, you will reach the treetop. So even a person who wants to get out of Tamogun, he has to think in terms of transcending
I see.
all the three gunas.
Not incremental.
Not incremental.
I see.
See, the force of Tamoguna is so powerful that your meager endeavors will be useless, practically speaking. Unless the person who is in Tamogun, he really takes help of sources which helps such a person uplift to the level of transcendence. Through those endeavors, at least he'll come to Rajogun. You're getting my point here. If the person's, see, this is from one perspective. From another perspective, you ask for a practical answer, and this is the practical answer.
Correct.
But if you go by a more Vedic procedure, we have described this previously also. Depending upon the guna that you are situated in, accordingly, scriptures are prescribed for you.
Correct.
For people who are in Tamoguna, there is a different set of scriptures.
Correct.
People in Rajoguna, different set of scriptures. And those scriptural injunctions are given in such a way which will help you gradually progress from Tamoguna to Rajoguna. And scriptures in Rajoguna, they give you prescriptions through which you can gradually go from Rajoguna to Sattva. So that's the normal procedure according to the Vedic culture. But in today's world, who knows what scriptures to follow? So the only way a person who is actually lost in Tamoguna can rise above Tamoguna is by aiming for transcendence. And by aiming for transcendence, at least that person will reach the platform of Rajoguna. Okay. See, now Arjuna is also going to ask questions which are something along the lines which you asked the question of.
Really?
Yeah.
Normally Krishna would, understand the question before and start answering it.
Yeah.
That was the general tendency in the last
You are
chapter.
following in the footsteps of Arjuna's perfectly. I've seen it a lot of times. Before Arjuna asked the question, just before he asked the question, you asked the question.
Okay.
Yes, very nice. When the embodied being is able to transcend these modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and the distress, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Transcendence. Now Arjuna asks this question. He is very inspired now. He says, Arjuna vacha kairlinge strin gunanetan atito bhavati prabho kimacharah katam chetam strin gunanati vartati. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does it transcend the modes of nature? Right? How to get out of the influence of the three gunas? Something along the same lines that you asked the question. But of course, here Arjuna is asking the question: how to transcend all the three gunas? So, what are the symptoms? This is a science. If it is a science, if a person follows, the results has to be found. What are the symptoms of a person who is gunatita? So Krishna answers that question in a string of verses here. O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear. See, this is very interesting. Does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion. Now obviously, a person who is on the transcendental path doesn't likes illumination.
Correct.
And doesn't like attachment, doesn't like delusion. But attachment is characteristic of Rajoguna once again. So a person who is gunatita does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear. Person is neutral. Correct? Because hate and attachment is also
Rajoguna.
Rajoguna. Who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. Who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards desirable and the undesirable, who is beyond the dualities, dvandva of this world, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. Say that the question of duality is such a central theme of the Gita actually. We were explaining the story of that mouse in one of the previous sessions, isn't it? As long as the mouse is lost in the duality of I like this, I hate this, I like the cheese but I hate the shock,
He forgets the basic purpose.
Forgets that he has to get out of the cage. That's the most important thing. The person is lost. There's actually one more experiment involving pigeons. So the experimental setup was such that if the pigeon pressed a button, some food used to come out and the pigeon used to eat that food. And when so it was kind of predictable. Every time the pigeon pressed the button, the food came out. That is one part of the experiment. Another part of the experiment is the pigeon pecks on the button and no food comes out. And either time, pigeons behaved in a particular way. But then in the third part of the experiment, it was made a little unpredictable. Sometimes the food came.
Sometimes nothing.
Sometimes the food didn't come. And when that happened, the pigeons were completely fixated upon the button.
I see.
They stopped looking here and there everywhere. Because there is kind of, you're getting my point there. There is something to hanker for. Something to lament over. When the food doesn't come, you lament. When you're looking for food, you hanker for it. And within that duality of hankering and lamentation, you forget the goal of life. This is the story of the human form of life, especially. So naturally, a person who is gunatita, a person is able to get liberated because such a person has risen above the duality. He's not allowing the dualities of this world to kind of fixate his consciousness.
Yeah.
So rising above the duality is concomitant with liberation. Now, the most important question. How to transcend the three gunas? How to transcend the three gunas? So Krishna, he says, Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samathityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service.
Back to bhakti.
See, this hardcore jnana section. But when it comes to the most crucial question, okay, you have given me knowledge of the three gunas. Now what? Now what? How to transcend the three gunas? Again, the same thing, bhakti. So Krishna says, Mam chayo avyabhicharini bhakti, not ordinary bhakti. Avyabhicharini means without deviation. Bhakti yogena sevate sa gunas samatayitetan. Such a person is able to rise above the three gunas. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate is able to achieve the platform of liberation from material bondage. Now, this is very, very interesting here. See, at one level, once we know the science of the three gunas, once we understand what Sattva Guna is, Raja Guna is, what Tamo Guna is, and we also understand what are the right lifestyle choices that will help us rise to Sattva Guna, or for that matter, in response to your question also.
The next level, whatever that level is. Yeah.
I am in Tamo Guna, now I want to change myself to be Rajasic. Suppose that's somebody's question. So, with the right lifestyle choices, a person theoretically can rise to Raja Guna.
Correct.
And with the right lifestyle choice, a person can theoretically rise to Sattva Guna also. You adopt a more sattvic food habit. Now, Krishna is going to go into great details of all three kinds of foods in the 18th chapter.
Oh, really? I see.
Yeah. So, he's going to speak about sattvic food, rajasic food, tamasic food, etc., etc. So, by adopting sattvic food, by being more awake during sattvic hours during the day. See, early morning hours are considered to be sattvic. Middle part of the day is rajasic. Night is tamasic. If you are more active during the sattvic part of the day, your Sattva Guna will increase. Especially if you engage in spiritual activities during the sattvic hours.
The Brahma Kal.
Brahma Muhurt. That will increase the Sattva Guna in you. If you are more active during the rajasic time, then it will be, your Raja Guna will increase. If you are more active during nightlife, Mumbai nightlife, the Tamo Guna in you will increase. As simple as that.
Correct.
See, nowadays, it's very interesting here. People want peace, want relief from misery and suffering. And for that, they take up some meditational practices. They turn to spirituality, etc. And they might do some meditation also. And that, whatever, some kind of meditation that they do might help them increase Sattva Guna. But then, because they don't understand the science, they do meditation in the morning, and at night they do all night party. So it's counterproductive. See, it's like pressing the accelerator and the brake simultaneously. वो बिल्कुल धुआं निकलेगा आपके ऑटोमोबाइल से, गाड़ी आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा. You should know the science. So yes, if you want to increase peace of mind, if you want to increase satisfaction, if you want a sense of happiness in life, you have to understand the science and mold your life to be sattvic. Isn't it? Be more awake during sattvic hours, eat more sattva guni food, hear sattvic music, classical Indian kirtans, bhajans, increases the sattva guna in you. Bollywood songs increases the raja guna in you. And then rock increases the tamo guna in you. So, once we understand the science, we can make the right lifestyle choices to increase the Sattva Guna in us.
Correct.
So, this is the way in which you can increase the Sattva Guna. Suppose you understand the importance of Sattva Guna and you are lost in Tamo Guna or you are lost in Raja Guna, or you want to prevent Raja Guna to slip into Tamo Guna, you have to increase Sattva Guna. If a person is convinced about it, then a person will have to do all this hard work to increase Sattva Guna. But my question to you is, these habits are so ingrained throughout one's life, a person has never seen the rising sun. Suppose.
Yeah.
He has only seen the afternoon sun.
Yeah.
And suddenly you give him lecture about sattvic habits. Is it possible for that fellow to suddenly rise early in the morning?
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
Correct.
Very difficult. Extreme amount of determination is required, and that amount of determination can't be expected from a person who is in Tamoguna actually. So it's like, even if a person wants to come out of it, there's so much stuck. See, one of the meanings of the word guna is rope.
Is?
Rope.
I see. Rope.
Guna is quality. Guna also means rope.
I see.
So this understanding of guna is very important. These gunas bind us. They bind us. People think they are free, but actually they are bound by the gunas. And when do they realize that they are bound by the gunas? When they try to escape the gunas. That's when they realize that they are bound by the gunas. See, when I was younger, when I was a kid, at our home we had cows. And generally, you shouldn't tie cows if you don't have an agricultural field in the proximity for them to graze during the day. because it actually agriculture and crop production go hand in hand. Anyway, we didn't have an agriculture field. So during the day, we also understood that they wanted some fresh air, cows. So we should take them by the rope and then tie the cow in the courtyard for a few hours during the day, and they used to have some fresh air every time. And they used to be very enthusiastic to go out. So whenever we brought the cow outside, the cow used to walk behind us, and we are walking ahead holding the rope. Now, does the cow experience the presence of the rope? No, because rope dhila
is loose, yeah.
But when does the cow realize the presence of the rope?
When it wants to pull out.
The moment it wants to go in a different direction. So similarly, as long as we are following the dictates of the modes, whatever they say we are doing, we feel we are very free. The Tamoguna dictates you, wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you are waking up at 2:30. Why will you experience the presence of Tamoguni rope in your life? You want. The moment you decide, I want to wake up at 4 o'clock, that's the time you go to sleep perhaps. You decide, I want to wake up at 4 o'clock.
Then the rope pulls.
Immediately realize that how much you are bound by the rope of Tamoguna. And so also is true with the person who is in Rajoguna, and so also is a person who is bound by Sattvaguna. These ropes are extremely powerful. And we have created these ropes through our own bad choices in the past. So, the procedure to actually climb up is a very strenuous path. But what Krishna reveals here is, this is the best way of coming even to Sattvaguna. Krishna here is speaking about transcending the three gunas. Through intense bhakti yoga, you transcend the three gunas, Krishna is explaining. But this particular instruction can also be used for increasing the Sattvaguna. See, one way of increasing Sattvaguna is the bottom top approach. What we
step by step,
bottom top. But the process that Krishna is describing here is the top bottom, the top bottom. See, when you practice intense bhakti yoga, now suppose you ask this question sometime, a person is actually immersed in tamoguna, totally tamasic. For such a person to make the right lifestyle choice to rise to rajoguna is very difficult, as I said, because of the habits that person is bound by. If such a person takes out half an hour or 1 hour every day to practice intense bhakti yoga, then what happens is, when he's intensely absorbed in bhakti, see, I'll tell you what, that absorption in Sri Krishna pulls you to the level of Shuddha Sattva. To the extent you are absorbed in Sri Krishna, if you are doing ritualistically, if you are chanting the names of God ritualistically, if you are doing service of the Lord ritualistically, it won't have as much of an effect. To the extent we are absorbed on the Shuddha Sattva platform, because Sri Krishna is constitutionally present on the Shuddha Sattva platform. He's transcendental. To the extent we connect to Sri Krishna through our attention, through our absorption, to that extent, at least for that duration of time, our consciousness actually becomes situated on the Shuddha Sattva platform. And after that period of practice is over, maybe you have practiced for half an hour, 1 hour. And after that, even if you're not in that level of intense absorption,
you raise the level.
You raise the level to Shuddha Sattva. Even if you drop it, will drop to Sattva Guna. For it to drop down to Tamo Guna will take a very long time. So a person might be on the tamasic level. If such a person on a regular basis, on a daily basis, if such a person engages in intense bhakti yoga, Krishna explains, Mam Cheva Avyabhicharini bhakti. Intense absorption in bhakti yoga for 1 hour per day, or at least half an hour per day to begin with. Then such a person will experience that during the rest of the day, the person is predominantly sattvic. Or max to max, consciousness will drop down to Rajoguna. I know a lot of people who are at top of their particular corporate world. They might be CEOs of companies, some of them are managing directors, etc. They tell me. So they, as soon as they wake up in the morning, immediately they start chanting Hare Krishna. And they say, unless I do it, During the day, I experience a lot of stress, anxiety. I'm not able to handle situations of my life with a cool head. See, basically what's happening here is, once they do that spiritual activity intensely in the morning, then that Sattva Guna in them will increase during the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're not able, that stress, anxiety doesn't affect them so much. And they're able to maintain a more peaceful state of mind during the day also.
Correct.
Because that early morning practice has raised their level of consciousness. See, then what happens? Very interesting. When you continue doing it, slowly but surely, the Sattva Guna in you, average Sattva Guna in you will go on rising.
Yeah.
And naturally, tamasic activities will become distasteful to you. See, this is important. For somebody who is in Sattva Guna, activities, lifestyle, food habits of somebody in Tamoguna is distasteful. For somebody who is in Tamoguna, activities, food, lifestyle of a person in Sattva Guna is very distasteful.
Yes.
It's horrifying, in fact.
How can you survive?
How can you survive? As through Bhakti Yoga, when we raise our consciousness to Sattva Guna slowly but surely, the average Sattva Guna rises in us, naturally tamasic activities will become more and more distasteful to us. And such a person, in due course of time, will rebuff the idea of sleeping till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. You're getting my point here?
Yeah.
It will come to that person naturally. Through this step-by-step process, it's not feasible. But through this process of the top-bottom approach, the bottom-top approach is very strenuous. It's not practical. But
Yeah, you run the risk of falling down continuously again.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the top-bottom approach is a sure shot way of rising your consciousness.
Got it.
Shuddha Sattva. Ultimately, when you are able to remain on that Shuddha Sattva platform all the time, we reach a liberated platform. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpata is a liberated platform. And for that, Avyabhicharini Bhakti. So, see, Krishna, there is a reason. I'm sure this is another reason why he is reserving all this discussion after chapters on Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga is the foundation.
That's going to be my next question, actually.
See, the foundation of Bhakti Yoga is necessary for you to follow Jnana Yoga also here. Because Jnana Yoga gives you an understanding of the 3 gunas. And unless you free yourselves from the 3 gunas, there is no question of liberation from material bondage. And to get liberated from material bondage, you need to practice Bhakti Yoga. Isn't it? So then he says, Brahmano hi pradishtaham amratasya avyasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ekandikasya cha. And this Brahmabhuta, what is Brahman? He is explaining. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. We have discussed this.
The Purusha.
The Supreme Lord. The Bhagavan is the foundation of Brahman and the Paramatma also. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So in this way, Krishna, he ends this chapter here. And then he speaks about Purushottama Yoga in the 15th chapter.
What is that, quickly? That's a new one I got.
15th chapter is very famous. Urdhvamulam Adashakam. He describes a banyan tree.
I see.
Which is upside down. It's going to be very interesting. Okay then?
Okay.
Thank
Namaskar.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The gunas govern the body and mind, but not the self. Bondage arises from identification with them. Liberation arises from disidentification. At the moment of death, the predominant guna determines the soul's next destination. Our inner state, not external rituals, shapes our destiny. Sattva leads to higher luminous realms. Rajas leads to rebirth among action-oriented beings. Tamas leads to lower births marked by delusion. We also understand the fruits of the 3 gunas. Only Sattva refines. Rajas and Tamas degrade consciousness. Sattva yields purity and clarity. Rajas yields pain through attachment and desire. Tamas yields ignorance and suffering. The gunas decide whether consciousness ascends, stagnates, or falls. From Sattva arises true knowledge. From Rajas, greed and restlessness. From Tamas, delusion and negligence. Liberation begins when one clearly sees that our actions are performed by the gunas, but the self is the silent witness, untouched. This vision helps to dissolve our ego and doership. The Gunatita, liberated person, remains neutral to pleasure and pain, is steady in honor and insult, acts without ego or attachment, and sees friend and enemy equally. We understand that bhakti is not emotionalism. It is the highest spiritual technology. Krishna tells us that one who serves him with unwavering devotion transcends the gunas. In the final synthesis, we need to understand the gunas, observe their play, rise beyond them, and learn to take refuge in the divine. Knowledge reveals the gunas. Detachment loosens their grip. And devotion, bhakti, completely transcends them.